QED.
But then, let me come to you, against the backdrop of what he said, because as he said, there were so many critics who argued that, imposing or suspending democratically elected governor was not the right thing. And it's more like going back to the Machiavellian kind of thing where you just want stability regardless of whose ox is God. What legal risks would you consider this might have on the lifting of this suspension, especially with about 40 different cases, right there before the judges in the court of law, who some of them are not, given their rulings on this? How do you think this will definitely pan out at the end of the day?
Well, well, you are going to court to tell them to leave the. Are you going to court to tell them to leave the state of emergency? I mean, there was a lot of ridiculousness going on during that time. There was bitterness. Let us face it. There are so many interests involved in having the governor continue. So many interests, so many contracts, so many jobs, so many egos. So the law was a refuge. For those people who thought that, we have to get all these our interests back. So what was happening was not only the threat of pipelines flaring, human beings were flaring. They were catching fire because a lot of things were going on. Take, for instance, the revelations that came after Ibas took over. The Nigerian Bar Association, 300 million?
Yes.
Up to today, the Nigerian Bar Association is still doing what Yorubas call kaloloing. They still cannot talk. Like somebody will ask you when you catch him when he has stolen money, and then they say, "What did you do?" You probably say, "I mean to say, I mean to say, I mean to say." What do you mean to say? Return the money. They can't return the money. I have said, I wrote it in my column, that even in the 300 million that was taken, we need to get the audit report on how that 300 million was even spent in the NBA. Why can't NBA do it? They say they are for the rule of law. But they like to do the law of rule until it comes to them. They look at the issue of the August staff audit.
Super Sam, just hold your thoughts. We'll definitely start off, from where you're leaving off now, which is the August thing that you want to talk about. But we have our senior correspondent, Uche Okoro, who is joining us live from River State. Uche, you've been abreast of this development in River State. I can remember back in the day, 6 months ago, you went to the complex, and then you also reported on the reactions from people who, after this, the emergency rule was imposed by the president. Can you fill us in on the atmosphere in River State as the governor returns to office today?
Correct. On day one of the state of emergency, I was here, right at this same location where I was. And then a few minutes later, few minutes after that on that day, I made my way into the government house, which is, you can see, government house just behind me on day one. And I'm back here on what I can describe as the final day of the state of emergency, where we expect Governor Fubara to arrive. Right now, this is the car park. This is the external car park of the River State Government House. And as you can see behind me, the crowd is beginning to gather. A lot of people are beginning to arrive here. I arrived here at about a few minutes after 6 a.m. And I already saw persons here. Early birds had already begun to converge on this location. So in any moment from now, in the next few minutes, next few hours, we expect this place to be populated by a very large crowd of supporters of Governor Siminalayi Fubara who have gathered here, or who will be gathering here, or who are gathered here to welcome him back to his office. Now, the mood here is one of excitement. When I arrived, there was a public address system, playing some music, and people were dancing that early. So right now the place is quiet. We are still setting up. A stage is being set up. A sound system is being set up. Generators are being powered. So somewhat we're expecting what I can describe as a party. here in front of the River State Government House in Port Harcourt. So that's the mood.
Most likely we're going to be having a concert right there at the governor's house. But before you got to the governor's house, governor's office this morning, there were feelers from the people of River State, especially during the twilight of the sole administrator Ibokete Ibaz. Could you tell us what the people were saying? Were they also expecting the return of Governor Fubara and his deputy, and as well the legislature?
Well, I think I should say that, yes, the state of emergency was destined to, first phase state of emergency was destined to elapse on the 18th. We all knew that. But then again, you would recall that residents of the state expected the state of emergency. There were predictions that it was going to be called off on the 12th of June. There were predictions that it was going to be called off on the 29th of May. So then again, those two dates did not materialize as a result of especially after, then there was also predictions also that it was going to be called off after the reconciliation between the two major gladiators. That as well did not materialize. So everyone began to look to September the 18th, knowing that that would be the date when the first phase state of emergency would have run its natural course. So having been disappointed 3 to 4 times in the past, there was this cautious optimism that what will Mr. President do on the 18th of September? But the fears and concerns of many persons have not come to fruition, because Mr. President has of course called off the state of emergency in the press release that was released that was sent out yesterday. So yes, many persons were expecting the governor to come back to be reinstated to resume office today, but there was this cautious optimism that people were waiting. They would rather wait to see it happen before they begin to celebrate and begin to anticipate and begin to get their dancing shoes ready. So yes, there was that anticipation, but today it is no longer anticipation, it is a reality. But the governor hasn't arrived yet. I don't have information that the governor has arrived yet. So that's why we are still here. Whenever he does, I believe that we will definitely be here to see him arrive. Certainly, this crowd that is gathering here, I know for sure that nobody will be going home until they see the governor arrive. We expect him to arrive any moment from maybe late morning, early afternoon. We don't have specifics on the time, but whenever he does, he's expected to address his supporters who will be definitely gathered here in their thousands and in different parts of the state. He would address them from this location before making his way to the government house, or make his way to the government house and then return to address them. But either way, I'm pretty sure that the governor will have a thing or two to say to the persons who will be gathered here to welcome him back to his duty post.
From the way you're talking, I can feel the excitement in you too. It's as if the excitement in that location is a little bit infectious. Now, let me take you a little bit backwards. Let's look at Ibokite's 6 months. How was it? How did the people take his leadership? And were there significant projects that the man did, either physical projects or building of systems?
The last 6 months, I must tell you that the administrator, when he arrived, he arrived to very mixed feelings, very, very mixed feelings. Opinions were very sharply divided when he arrived. You would recall, I don't know if you remember or followed my reporting in the early days of the state of emergency. There were back-to-back protests almost every day. Multiple groups were on the streets protesting, calling for mounting pressure on the presidency to call off this emergency rule in the state. So that paints a picture for you, the kind of reception that he received when he arrived the state. So opinions were divided. Really, you had persons who were on this side protesting, calling for him to leave, describing him as a stranger, describing him as a usurper, and all those kind of names. But at the same time, you have persons on the other side who would say his arrival was a product of necessity, because the president's hands were tied and forced to do what he did. It was necessary to curtail the outbreak of violence in the state. So really, opinions were very much divided. But in the latter stages, towards the mid stages of the state of emergency, you know that there was some reconciliation, and so Governor Fubara called his supporters, called them back and advised everybody to cease hostilities and cut down on the war of words. So I can say that in the first 3 months, he had his work cut out for him, trying to convince Rivers people that he has their best interests at heart. But between by the third, fourth, fifth, sixth month, it became clear that the governor was no longer interested in remaining in the front lines of the battle. And so the opposition that he was facing kind of died down significantly. Apart from, of course, people who were still free to express a few opinions on social media. But basically, opinions were divided at first, but then the opposition to his leadership of governance of the state kind of died down towards the twilight of the state of emergency here in the state.
Right, absolutely. Senior correspondent Uche Okoro live for us there in Rivers State, giving us blow-by-blow account of what we're expecting today. Uche, we want you to hang on. Most definitely, we will most likely going to come back to you to get more information from you as they continue to emerge. But let me bring this back to the studio where we have Super Sam, Omatseye, and Biodun Shomi. I remember we were having this conversation, and we were talking before Uche, came into the conversation, and then you mentioned something about August. But I want you to also react to some of the live feeds we're getting from River State, where our senior correspondent Uche Okoro told us that people are expecting the arrival of their governor.
Yes, there's something of a party going on there. There's a fanfare. He said that's democracy. Democracy is theater. And what you saw there...
But not theater of the absurd.
Well, sometimes it can be of the absurd. We don't know whether it will get to the absurd. But even when it gets to be absurd, it becomes even more political.
More political.
They are more democratic.
Absolutely.
Because human beings cannot do anything without the absurd. It's just part of who we are. And you see that people are laughing, people are chanting. It is, oh, my jobs are coming back. Oh, that my contract that I didn't get before. That conversation I had with the chief of staff that was stopped. Okay, well, we have to continue from there. That money, that party that I'm trying to do, the school fees I'm trying to pay, all those things are going to come back. The good times in the school, in the government house and in the state, the things are coming back. The people can now decide, what is going to happen to them. This is the nature. This is the nature of democracy. People want to be involved in what is going on in their state. But it's also a moment for reflection. It should also be a moment for reflection, because when you are happy today, you should remember that you were in a situation where you might have been sad because of what went on just before the state of emergency was created. It is a time for lessons. It's time for rumination, because when there is no rumination, there is a tendency to go back to to trouble. So it says, what does it say? In times, what the Bible says, it says, in time of prosperity, rejoice. In times of adversity, consider. It's time. When you are doing things, you should also be happy. Yeah, I think Yoruba proverb that says that even when you are crying and your tears are in your face, you should also look forward. So that is what is happening. Said there were protests at the beginning. There were all sorts of people who were saying, oh, Fubara must come back and all of that. Some of it all orchestrated by people who were bitter. And it's also, I was saying that time that it was also funded by money. So after those people were not seeing money trickling back, okay, no more protests. So everybody went to your tents, oh, Israel. So everybody went to their tents. Absolutely. So that was what was going on. Now it is time to see how the governor and Wike, we're going to come to that part of it. The governor and Wike will now calibrate the moment for the peace and welfare and prosperity of Rivers.